from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Going big with beans.
We're sitting on potentially a record.
One southern state's surprising yield potential this harvest season. Plus a break from higher gasoline prices. But why now? After drought forces farmers to send more cattle to sale, is rebuilding finally underway?
There's got to be some serious incentive and some serious confidence that this market can stay at a high level.
What key numbers are telling us right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when the testing grounds meet the proving grounds. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Right about now, we would expect the fall run of cattle to increase at auction, but it may be muted. Numbers are down and feeder steers and heifer prices at some auction barns are up by more than 55% after farmers liquidated the herd due to drought. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins me. And Michelle, any signs that the herd is finally starting to rebuild?
Well, if you look just strictly at the USDA data, there's nothing suggesting that cattle producers are in the process of rebuilding the U.S. cattle herd. The key number here is heifer retention, and market analysts tell me there's no evidence that that's showing up yet. In the latest USDA Cattle on Feed report, placements of cattle into feedlots were down 5% from last year, but placements of heifers versus steers is still running higher than normal.
The last actual data we had was in July. The quarterly data showed that at that point in time, we had right at 40% of all the feedlot inventories were heifers. And that's a level that goes all the way back to 2001, since it's been that higher proportion.
Plus, with the lingering drought, heifer slaughter has been high and so far has decreased only 1% for the year.
We still haven't reached, to me, this part of the market where we're going to say these heifers need to get back into the cow herd because we need to get to expanding.
He says cattle producers are moving slowly and cautiously before they jump into heavy heifer retention.
With the interest rates staying higher and going to stay higher out into the future, there's got to be some serious incentive and some serious confidence that this market can stay at a high level. If you're looking to expand in the beef industry, it's going to take a large dollar amount that you're going to have to foot up and a lot of risk.
The process of rebuilding the cattle herd also takes considerable time, but it looks like it's being pushed off until 2024. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Is beef the new cash cow for dairy? As we learned last week at World Dairy Expo, the shortage of beef cows is an area where some dairy farmers are cashing in. Beef on dairy is a concept that's been around for years, but when the beef cattle herd started to shrink in the U.S., dairy producers saw it as an even bigger revenue stream. Dan Bossy of Ag Resource Company says he thinks the beef market will continue to make record highs into next year, and as that happens, black calves from the dairy side will also be in high demand.
Our problem is, as we model out the beef herd, we see modest expansion today as we keep back some cows, but the beef cow herd has a long ways to go. So if I think about it, this is 3 to 4 years at a minimum. We are still not retaining heifers to a big degree that gives us the opportunity to really accelerate beef production anytime soon.
Now, Bossy says the only real concern is demand. He says foot traffic at higher end restaurants has really tapered off the past couple of weeks. Temperatures took a dip in many parts of farm country to end last week. What can we expect this week? Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht joins us with a look ahead. Matt.
Yeah, the temperature outlook is going to look pretty similar to what we had this past weekend, where that cool down is going to kind of anchor itself across the United States. So October 11th through the 15th, you got a pocket of cold air sinking across the United States. But just like we've talked about before, where that cold air is located, you got kind of a reverse effect on the other side of it. So a ridge of high pressure building off the west coast, and that means extreme temperatures for this time of year up in the Pacific Northwest. And then as you come back into the middle part of the country, you got those cooler than average temperatures before we get more ridging back out here into the Atlantic. Again, there's the temperature outlook between October 11th and October 15th. And how about this beautiful moment? Natalie sending this one in. She's a rancher in Nebraska. Captured a couple of pals enjoying a ride together. That right there is something you never forget. And thanks, Natalie, for sharing that with us. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
The U.S. trade deficit decreased to just over $58 billion in August. It marks the lowest level since September of 2020. Zeroing in on ag trade specifically, they posted their third consecutive deficit. That's despite increased exports. In August, they reached a value of $12.48 billion. Now, that's up slightly from July. However, there was a surge in imports in August, totaling more than $16 billion. As a result, the U.S. ag trade deficit for August hit a record high of $3.62 billion. In Ukraine, Russia is continuing to attack ag infrastructure. Late last week, Russia launched a massive drone attack, hitting port infrastructure and damaging a grain storage facility on the Danube River in the Odessa region. Ukrainian officials say the fire caused by the attack was quickly put out and no one was hurt. It was also reported a Turkish-flagged general cargo ship struck a mine in the Black Sea off the coast of Romania.
It was outside of the corridor that's recently been outlined by the Ukrainian government as what they call the humanitarian corridor. But the fact that the ship did hit a mine, it wasn't seriously damaged. It did resume its journey here, but definitely enough to get the attention of the trade.
The mine strike coming just days after the UK government warned Ukraine Russia would likely use sea mines in an effort to cut grain cargoes coming out of Black Sea ports. Back here at home, for the first time in months, cases of bird flu have been confirmed in a commercial turkey flock. USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service updating its map, saying the flock was located in Gerald County, South Dakota. It says the outbreak affected a total of 47,300 birds. This is the first instance of a HPAI confirmed in a commercial poultry operation in the U.S. since mid-April. But due to a drop in bird flu cases, it's expected you'll be paying less this year for your Thanksgiving turkey. The American Farm Bureau Federation reporting there's been a recovery of the turkey population. It says an average price for an 8 to 16 pound turkey typically served for Thanksgiving was $1.27 per pound in August. That's 22% lower than the same time last year. And it says egg production also saw a year-to-year increase with 9.38 billion eggs produced last month. That's 2% higher than last year. Now, the national average retail price for eggs was just over $2 per dozen in August, down 30% from August 2022, and it's down 60% from the record average price of $4.82 hit at the start of the year. Grains falling to end last week. Michelle Rook talks to Brian Doherty next to see if there could be better movement this week. And later we head to what could be a bright spot for beans this year. We're off to Arkansas in the country. Finally, some good news about gas prices. They're dropping. U.S. oil prices last week fell by 5.6% to $84.22 a barrel. Last Wednesday was the biggest single-day drop in a year. Now, analysts say the catalyst was a government report last week. It showed gasoline inventories unexpectedly soaring and adds concern about weakening demand. Now, the president of the consulting firm Lippout Oil Associates sees gas prices dropping to $3.50 a gallon in the next few weeks, and a chief analyst with the Oil Price Information Service foresees a $3.25 price point by the end of the month. It's also expected the drop in gas prices will likely influence the Fed's decision to maintain interest rates at its next meeting. Grains under pressure at the end of last week thanks to a better than expected jobs number report from the Labor Department. Well, Michelle Rook is back to preview this week ahead of USDA's big report in markets now.
Grains ended lower on Friday. Brian Doherty with Total Farm Marketing joining us. And Brian, the setback was that just some profit taking. We had a pretty good rally early in the weekend. A lot of things like corn and wheat anyways.
Yeah, we did. And the corn market in particular seems to be trying to carve out a low. We're about 3 weeks now removed from the low in the corn market. But another disappointing day on Friday here. It looked like either some profit taking, some hedge pressure, maybe some farmers selling. Whatever the case, the market didn't have that good push on a Friday that we'd hoped to really, signify that the bears might be on the run. So a little bit disappointing, but still the markets are consolidating. We're holding. Weekly closes are generally higher, and that's a good sign.
So as we start a new week, because we had higher weekly closes in both corn and wheat and a little bit of a sharp breakout kind of in that corn market, can we keep going, Brian?
Yeah, you can. The problem that you have right now in the marketplace is we've seen this continuously for multiple months on end, where the traders are pretty quick to jump on rallies that don't sustain themselves. So let's look at today. Got up to $4.99 on December corn, and then quickly found some selling interest there. What you need is that perceptive buying. You need buying to come in and buy off of something that they believe is going to continue to push the market higher, and we're really lacking that right in the heart of harvest right now. So a lot of attention needs to focus on yield results, and so far our needle probably is tipping that the results are a little better than expected.
Yeah. Yield results, will that be the key here for the soybean market, especially as we go into the WASDE and maybe get confirmation one way or the other?
You bet. So the news that comes off the combine, you take it for what it's worth, but it's probably what we're not hearing. And what we're not hearing is, oh my gosh, these corn and soybean yields are much worse than we anticipated. What we're hearing is farmers saying, well, in some areas are a little better, and if we got some timely rains, they're much better. But others are, echoing the general concern of dry weather, that they didn't get a timely rain. So it's about as expected right now, but it's more so, again, what we're not hearing, and that's a train wreck.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Brian Doherty with Total Farm Marketing. That is Markets. Now we'll have more AgDay coming up.
To discuss marketing strategies, call 800-334-9779. Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
A little bit ago, we looked at the temperature outlook for this week. Here's a look at the precipitation outlook. Where that ridging, the heat is located in the Pacific Northwest. Expect dry conditions, but underneath a trough of low pressure, we're going to swing some moisture in for consecutive days across the East Coast, and then also back here into the Midwest and the Gulf Coast states. So wetter than normal conditions into portions of Georgia, Florida, but also back up into the north and to the east as well. The deeper we get into October, the less likely we see severe weather outbreaks back up here into the Midwest and specifically into the Dakotas as well. But you can still hang on to outside severe weather chances in the Gulf Coast states where temperatures are still a little bit on the warmer side. As for that jet stream, so rest of the day today, it's going to be all about that cutoff low up into parts of Canada that will swing in the cooler temperatures, but also keep it around. Slight ridging back out here towards the west, but some energy that is just moving off onto the west coast is actually going to kind of squash this ridge and bring the warmth or the heat back down here towards the south, kind of isolated into more of a zonal pattern back here in the southern part of the United States. So that's why we got an extended period of cooler than average temperatures into the Midwest, the Northeast, and then back in and across the Dakotas as well, with that next piece of energy starting to move through. What we want to look for in terms of warmer than average temperatures is ridging, and that is going to stay on the west coast through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with this cutoff low continuing to bring cloudy weather, on and off light showers in and across the Midwest. As for that drought monitor, still we got some drought, extreme drought back into Texas and Louisiana, but also into Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, where we get more into the extreme, if not exceptional. We'll start off with Caribou, Maine, cloudy, high around 58 degrees, low of 43. Glenwood, Minnesota, partly cloudy, high around 52. And then Massachusetts, Lawrence, cloudy, high around 62, low of 45.
Machinery Pete wants his MTV and also to give you the best deal on an 80s tractor. We'll have details next. And later, many Arkansas farmers are anxious to harvest their soybean crop, what they could see for yields this year in the country. Apple harvest could soon be going to the robots. California-based startup Advanced Farm Technologies is getting a boost of investment from C&H Industrial. Advanced Farm designs and builds robotic harvesters for apples, strawberries, and other fruits. Now, just last year, it launched this apple harvester for use in Washington State. And look at how this thing works. Now, the apple picker has multiple robotic arms on each harvester and suction cup grippers to grab the apples. Now, the company says robotic harvesting like this can increase efficiency up to 5 times. Currently, about 46% of apples are hand-picked, and that number is closer to 70% when it comes to strawberries. Well, throw on a pair of leg warmers and put on your parachute pants. Machinery Pete is taking us back to the 80s when it comes to tractors.
Well, folks, I grew up in the 1980s, graduated high school, Benson, Minnesota, 1984, graduated college with an accounting degree in 1988, Gustavus Adolphus College, got married summer of 1989, and started my Machinery Pete business November of 1989. And recently, I don't know, maybe I heard a familiar 1980s song on the radio, but I just got thinking it kind of had 1980 tractors on the brain. So I went into our machinerypete.com website, had a little fun. We have all kinds of filters in there. And again, it's free to view all the auction prices. You can sort this stuff any way you want. And I had a little fun and I said, show me the top 5 auction prices on tractors made in the 1980s from the last 5 years. And I tell you, it was a pretty fun list. Not surprisingly, they were all 4-wheel drives. We've been talking a lot about how hot those are. So let's dive into the list here. And the highest price, this 1980 Big Bud 525/50. This sold on a July 7th, 2021 auction in Lambert, Montana by the Steffes Group, went for $173,000. Now the next 2 on our top 5 list both sold on the same auction, September 30th of 21 in Adams, Minnesota by Mehring Auction. Pair of Steiger KP 525 Tiger 4s, 1985 model and a 1984. They each went for $139,000. You can actually watch a Machinery Pete YouTube video I filmed of those babies selling. That was quite the day. 4th on our list is this 1986 Ford Versatile 1156 with 6,200 hours. It sold for $132,600 on a December 30th, 2022 auction, Minot, North Dakota. And rounding out the top 5, how about this beauty? 1984 Versatile 1150 went for $126,000 on the same auction as our leading price back on July 7th of 21 in Lambert, Montana.
All right, thanks, Pete. Well, drought is cutting into many states' yields, but Arkansas farmers could be looking at a very big soybean harvest. What they're pulling out of the fields when it comes to yields, next.
Your next piece of equipment is on machinerypete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on machinerypete.com.
Arkansas's largest row crop will likely crush harvest records this year. As the Arkansas Farm Bureau shows us, soybean farmers and agronomists are forecasting a whopping 53 plus bushels per acre.
Crop looks really good, soybean crop. We're setting on potentially a new record.
Our beans got planted first week of May, and I think they're a little bit better than what we had the last couple of years.
USDA right now has us picked at 53 bushels state average, which is a bushel better than we were the last 2 years. Typically, I'm a little bit below that, but I think this year 53 may be a little bit short. So it may be 53, it may be a little bit better than 53, but you know, those official numbers won't come out until 2024, usually about February. But right now, really early crop got planted. We're about 20% ahead of where we typically have been the last 5 years. The crop as a whole, we're about 70% good to excellent.
Our biggest hurdle probably is inputs again this year. You know, they did come down some from what they were in 2022, but we've also seen a little bit of a slide in the crop prices too. So, you know, our inputs are still pretty high. Diesel's continuing to go up right now. Fertilizer has come down some from what we've initially started in the spring. It's come down a little bit. Seed tends to stay the same or go up every year. You don't hardly ever see seed prices come down, and chemical prices tend to stay pretty level or increase a little bit. So commodity prices come down, but not many inputs come down. That's probably our biggest hurdle right now is our inputs, and hoping that they do come down, and they have come down. I'm hearing lower numbers for 24, so hopefully that will continue. These beans right here are probably another 10 days, 2 weeks out from being cut. We've got probably another 150 50 acres of beans to cut, and then we're going to switch back and go finish up rice. I've got about 150 acres of rice to finish up. Then we'll be back into beans and hopefully be done in 2 or 3 weeks.
Our thanks to the Arkansas Farm Bureau for that harvest update. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day on the farm.